What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be going over the top 10 4K Blu-rays of 2022. Keep in mind that I have not reviewed every single movie to come out this year, so there's going to be some titles that I've skipped. I've also not done any really classic movies. I know a lot of you guys out there like those older classic films from like the 50s, 60s, and before. So those older titles are not going to be on this list. Usually, typically, current day films are what's going to be on my list. If you guys want the older classics, there's many other channels out there that can provide that for you. Not here. Only the latest and greatest on my channel. That's what you're going to get here. And this list is also only about audio and video quality. It doesn't take into consideration how good or bad the movie is. The movie might suck. That doesn't matter. Just as long as it looks good and it sounds good, that's what matters here on this list. With that being said,
coming up at number 10 is The Batman. It was shot in 4.5K and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
So that's it. Number 10 is The Batman. This was a great movie that came out earlier. Well, not earlier this year, but I think towards the middle of the year. This is a very dark movie. The black levels are somewhat raised. I wouldn't say they're the best black levels out there on all the titles that came out this year. But it was a stylistic choice. I think if you have an entry-level TV, a subpar TV, maybe a lower-end LED TV, it might struggle with some shadow detail. Other than that, the detail is fairly, I don't want to say crisp, somewhat soft. It's got a very filmic look to it because of the way they shot the movie. So it does have a very specific look, but I think for the look that they were going for, they definitely hit it on all the right marks. And of course, the audio is in Dolby Atmos, which is also a dynamic mix. It's got some really great bass in it as well. Probably the best part of the mix is going to be the score, so the music is fantastic sounding. There's some really good demo-worthy scenes in here, specifically the chase scene where the Batmobile ramps up. One of the best scenes, I think one of our favorite scenes in the movie when we saw it at the theater, and also here as well. Definitely a demo-worthy scene. Like I said, it's a dynamic mix, so it's got a very nice atmospheric feel to it. Nice little subtle effects here and there. As far as ratings-wise, The Batman, I gave it an 8.5 for video and a 9.5 for audio, which, if you add them together, equals a 9. Out of all the movies I did this year, that comes in at number 10. Definitely a demo-worthy disc if you guys want to pick it up in either digital, 4K Blu-ray, or if you are fortunate enough to have a Kaleidoscape, you can pick it up on the Kaleidoscape as well. So number 10 is The Batman. Nancy, what do we got next?
Okay, number 9 is the Ghostbusters Afterlife. It was shot in 4.K and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
Number 9, Ghostbusters Afterlife. How many of you guys would have guessed that one? Probably not too many of you. I don't think it was that popular of a movie, but I thought video quality wise was very solid. It's got some nice solid earthy tones to it. A lot of the film takes place out in the desert, so it's got kind of a warmish look. Again, color tone was very natural. I thought HDR was fairly bright and vibrant for some of those ghost busting scenes, especially with the, what are those things called, the little proton packs. So the electricity coming from that. Great HDR with that, pretty bright. And the audio is in Dolby Atmos. For the score, I gave Ghostbusters Afterlife a 9.3 for video and a 9.1 for audio, which, if you add them together, average them out, it comes out to a 9.2. Again, the audio mix is great. It is a dynamic mix, so you'll hear some swirling effects towards the, anytime they're chasing after ghosts. So you'll hear either the car driving down the street with some really good movement. You'll hear ghosts moving around in the background through your lower channels, also some atmospheric effects in the upper channels as well. Overall, a great atmospheric mix with some good movement in the surround channels and also in the Atmos channels as well. Standout mix. I think you're gonna like it if you have a proper setup. Great movie, fun little movie. Nancy, what's up next?
Number 8 is Moonfall. It was shot in 8K and has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
This is everyone's favorite movie. I know it. It's a fun movie. Doesn't make too much sense, but Halle Berry's in it, and so is the guy from The Watchmen, Patrick Wilson. Fun movie. Overall, video quality for this one, I gave an 8.6. Audio, I gave a 9.9. I think that might be the highest audio rating I gave. No, that's not true. 9.9. Let's talk about the audio first. It's in Dolby Atmos. One of the craziest mixes on this list. Fantastic bass response. So if you have some giant subs or multiple subwoofers, if you only have one subwoofer, I would recommend you pick up another one, because you're going to be missing out on a lot of LFE, low frequency response, because this movie just digs down low and just hits hard. So if you guys want to show off your subwoofers, this movie definitely will do that for you. Of course, since there's so much going on in the movie, so much action going on in this, things blowing up, it is, just like Independence Day / Day After Tomorrow, that kind of big action feel to it. That's what you're going to get with this movie. Full on Dolby Atmos dynamic mix. It's going to push your audio to the limit, your system to the limit. Definitely pick this up. Demo worthy disc, reference quality disc, I would say. And then for the video quality, which I gave an 8.6. Probably not the strongest on the list, but it's still good enough to make the top 10. Great HDR, great black levels, a lot of image depth and pop. Contrast levels are really deep as well. Crispy in some parts. The only really negative thing I would have to say is that the CG is kind of shoddy. There's a lot of scenes in it that look like it came from maybe the 1990s, but overall it is a pretty crispy transfer. And Halle Berry, if I wasn't married, I'd probably marry you. You're still looking good today, girl. You're looking fine today, girl, Halle Berry. Nancy, what's coming up next? What's next on the list?
Number 7 is Infinite. Okay, I don't think I watched that. Okay, it was shot in 4.K and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
As Nancy said, it was shot in 4.5K with a 4K DI. Great movie as well. Not the brightest movie on the list, but I did give it a 9.8 for video, so pretty darn good. And audio, I gave it an 8.8. So I do recall it having a pretty natural color palette as well. Some strong HDR in parts. Not quite Aquaman levels of brightness, but it is pretty crispy in certain areas. The CG was okay, but overall, a pretty sharp, crisp transfer. Audio, dynamic mix, Dolby Atmos. There's a lot of effects in it, some swirling effects, a lot of good Atmos height effects as well. Not the strongest audio on this list, but it is very dynamic in the parts that do get busy, specifically the car chase scene with Dylan O'Brien at the start of the movie and towards the end of the movie as well. There's some pretty good dynamic effects. I think there's also one part where Wahlberg falls onto one of the car hoods in the movie, and you can feel some like wind and atmospheric effects in that particular scene as well. So really solid mix overall. Not quite a 9, but still pretty strong with an 8.8. Overall average score, that got a 9.3, which makes it come in at number 7. And up next, what do we got, Nancy?
Number 6 is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. It was shot in 3.4 and a 4.5K and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
I don't think a lot of people saw it because it didn't have Mila Jovovich in it, but I felt like this particular movie followed pretty closely to the game. It was a good mixture of maybe Resident Evil 1 and 2 from the game with certain characters and some plot points, I think, so they mixed it together. This is a very dark movie. If you have an OLED, this will look really good on an OLED television set, or if you have a really good top quality mini LED set. So the black levels are great in this movie, really dark to the point where it looks like it might be crushing some detail. But if you have a capable television set, then you should have plenty of shadow detail down low. The HDR is pretty strong as well because it contrasts really nicely with those black levels. Not the most colorful movie because it does have kind of a muted color palette because it's a dark movie. So the blacks really pop, the reds really pop, the specular highlights really pop because it will shine really brightly against that deep black level. Great quality transfer, pretty sharp as well. It's got a really nice cinematic dark feel to it. So I gave that a 9.0 for video quality, and for audio, really strong as well, 9.6 for audio, which is in Dolby Atmos. Certain big action scenes get really good. They get really creepy, good creepy atmospheric effects with the little creepy sounds coming from behind you. The lickers, you know, those creatures with the long tongues. There's that scene in the hospital where it sounds pretty creepy. And just throughout the entire movie, atmospheric stuff like rain and, you know, little creepy sounds. Like I said, you'll hear them swirling around through your lower channels, and also some nice atmospheric extension up top. So 9 for video, 9.6 for audio, average score 9.3, which ranks it in at number 6. Nancy, what's next?
Number 5. Wow, okay. It's Elvis. It was shot in 4.5 and 6.5K, and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
I gave the video 9.7 and 9.2 for audio, so very strong video quality. HDR is top notch, really bright, so you're going to get some nice speculars, especially during the daytime scenes when they're in Vegas. The lights shining in Vegas. Those neon lights here and there that pop up throughout the movie. His costumes or his outfits during the movie shine pretty nicely as well. The color palette, really nice, deep, dark black levels, really high contrast. Colors pop, reds pop, primary colors pop. Everything just looks great in this movie. It's really crispy as well. So super sharp, really sharp detail. If you want to count Austin Butler's strands of hair, you can do that. The man's he's a good looking guy as well. He looks a little bit like Elvis, but not really. But really good detail. Audio, of course, super strong. If you're a fan of Elvis, the music is great. Really solid bass levels as well. Really nice wide sonic soundstage, especially during some of those concert scenes, which I think is going to be the strongest point of this mix. And some just nice everyday light atmospheric effects throughout the lower channels. Again, great score. 9.7 for video, and audio gets a 9.2 for a total average score of a 9.45, which brings it in at number 5. Nancy, what's next?
Okay, number 4 is Morbius. It was shot in 8K and 6.5K, and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
Morbius got a 9.3 for video and 9.7 for audio. Ooh. This is one clean, crispy transfer. Any title that comes from Sony is usually pretty clean and crispy, and this is definitely no exception. Great looking movie, great black levels, great HDR as well. Not a lot of colors in it. Details really good, super crisp, like I said. Great effects that do come across really sharp and very detailed, if not somewhat fake, because it's highly CG, and the extra resolution makes the CG kind of stand out. So that's kind of a negative on that part, but still super crisp, sharp detail and really nice bright highlights. Audio quality is in Dolby Atmos. I gave it a 9.7. This again is somewhat of a big action film, and those big action set pieces have some really deep bass, especially when he's kind of like zipping in and out. There's that big low end frequency response every time he like kind of goes into his speed mode or whatever it's called. Good atmospheric effects when he's kind of floating around in the different areas, when he's like climbing on the ceilings and stuff like that. You'll hear him there. There's that one scene with the swirling effect where he's in that chamber, I think, and you can hear all kinds of stuff floating around the room. It's a dynamic mix. Sony usually delivers on their audio mixes. Morbius, a great audio video experience. 9.3 for video, 9.7 for audio, with a cumulative average score of 9.5, which brings it in at number 4. Nancy, what we got next?
Number 3 is The Matrix Resurrections. It was shot in 6K and 8K, and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
Maybe one of the worst movies to come out this year. Again, we're not here to review the movies itself, but it's definitely one of the worst movies. Definitely the worst Matrix movie, I think. But I gave this one, man, this is the only one that got a 10. It got a 10 for video and a 9 for audio. Woo, I mean, this is the sharpest, crispiest movie on this list. The effects do kind of stand out because it is so clean, so sharp, so detailed. So some of those CG effects do look a little wonky, but wonky, crispy digital effects, super clean. HDR is fantastic. Details fantastic. Colors are great. Black levels are great. I don't know what else to say. This is just demo worthy from start to finish. Audio does get a 9 whenever he is using Keanu Reeves is using his force powers. You know, you get that nice blast of bass. There's that shootout, another lobby shootout, which you get a lot of dynamic movement. So it is a Dolby Atmos mix with dynamic movement. It's not static. Solid scene during that other lobby shootout, or is it the office building shootout? That sounds great. Again, you know, the bullets and stuff flying around the air. This is a Warner Brothers mix, so typically Warner Brothers always delivers, especially if it's a DC movie. But 9.0 for audio, 10 for video, with a cumulative score of a 9.5. Pick it up if you have a solid display and you want to show it off. Just pick it up for the eye candy. Nancy, what we got coming in next?
I actually really love this movie that is coming next. Number 2 is Dune. It was shot in 4.5K and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 0.39 to 1.
Dune, I gave this one a 9.7 for video and a 9.9 for audio. Video quality is really strong as well. Very much like the Batman, which I believe had the same cinematographer, if I'm not mistaken. They both used a process where they shot it digitally, transferred it to film, and then went back digital. So they went digital to give it the clean digital look, transferred it to film so it has the grainy texture to it, and then scanned it back digitally. It sounds a little bit weird, but as you can see, it looked pretty good for what we got. Not the most colorful movie. It takes place out in the desert, of course. There's a lot of browns, a lot of blacks, a lot of sepias, a lot of oranges. You know, if you're looking for a super high contrasty, colorful movie like Aquaman or The Grinch or something, this is not going to be the movie for you. But for what they wanted to accomplish, this is a demo-worthy disc. It's a fantastic disc. Great detail. A little bit of grain, a little bit of softness to it. Black levels are not the most solid looking. There's slightly raised in parts, very much like Batman. But the detail is still fantastic. The CG and the worms look like real life. Great digital effects, especially the choppers, the ornithopters, and that scene with where they're flying over the worm's mouth. Great looking movie. You can't go wrong with this movie, especially if you got a nice top tier TV. And this has a thunderous score, one of the best sounding mixes on this list. If you have a sound bar, then I feel bad for you because you're missing out. If you have a fantastic home theater system with some subwoofers, you're going to really benefit from this mix because the bass is off the charts on this mix as well. And a lot of dynamic movement. This is a dynamic mix, not a static mix. Very atmospheric, very bombastic, especially during the action scenes. There's that battle scene out in the desert where the troops are all fighting each other. You'll see and also hear a lot of action going on, not only in the lower channels but also in the top channels as well. Great sounding movie. 9.9 for audio, 9.7 for video, with an average score of 9.8, which brings it up to number 2. And what is next? Kicking off at number 1, Nancy, what do we got now?
Someone already mentioned this one. Actually, only one person I saw it. Number 1 is Ambulance. It was shot in 6K and 8K and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 0.39 to 1.
Some of you guys knew that this was going to be number 1. Some of you guys thought probably Dune was going to be number 1. Some of you guys might have even thought Top Gun was going to be number 1, but that was not even in the top 10 list. But this was, it's a Michael Bay movie. If you like that big, bombastic sound, high visuals. Well, hold on. Score-wise, I gave Ambulance a 9.8 for video and a 9.9 for audio. It's a Michael Bay movie. You guys know what his movies look like. Bad Boys 1, Bad Boys 2, Transformers movies. The Rock, Con Air. These movies benefit from HDR and 4K because HDR in this movie is just off the charts. Super bright colors, great highlights, black levels, super deep, high contrast levels, deep, dark. Really gives you that nice, rich depth to the image. Bright HDR, blow out your highlights, almost crushing detail. That's what a Michael Bay film looks like. And that's exactly what you're going to get here with Ambulance. Audio quality, gave it a 9.9, near perfect score. I'm not sure why I didn't give it a 10. Maybe I could have, but I got a 9.9. This is, again, another one of those movies off the charts. Bass is insanity. If you have multiple subwoofers, if you don't, get yourself multiple subwoofers because it's not going to do justice with just one. The effects in this movie, it's a Michael Bay movie. I mean, what more can you ask for? There's stuff going on in the lower channels. There's stuff going on overhead. There's things blowing up. There's choppers, car chases, explosions, things going on, interiors of ambulances. Definitely a demo-worthy disc from start to finish, audio video quality. 9.8 for video and 9.9 for audio for an average score of 9.85, which gives it the number one top spot for 2022 top disc of the year. You gotta have it. If you got a nice quality home theater system, AV system, pick up this movie. I'm gonna leave some links down below in this video description if you want to pick up anything on this top 10 list. And of course, we're gonna have some honorable mentions. Nancy, what's the first honorable mention?
The first one is the Spider-Man No Way Home. It was shot in 4.5K and it has a 2K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1.
This one I gave a 9 for video and a 9 for audio, which would give it an average score of 9. Video quality as well. Also the only movie on this list with a 2K DI. Maybe partially the reason why it didn't make it in the top 10. But it's a little bit soft here and there, but overall detail is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's the most vibrant, most colorful movie, but it's still got pretty good color to it. It looks like all the previous other Spidey movies in the Sonyverse. And audio quality, pretty solid as well. Some pretty good movement here and there. Not super aggressive, but still pretty solid bass. 9 for audio, 9 for video. Solid score. Nancy, what we got next?
Okay, and the last honorable mention is the second highest grossing movie of 2022. It's Top Gun Maverick. And it was shot in 6K and it has a 4K DI. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1 and 1.90 to 1.
The movie I think a lot of people thought were going to be number one, but it wasn't number one. It was only an honorable mention. And why it wasn't an honorable mention on the list? Because it got a 9.9 for video, which almost was a perfect score. And it only got an 8 for audio, which plummeted the score down and took it straight out of the top 10 list. I actually think when I first reviewed the movie, I think I gave it a higher score than I should have, because I, much like most of the people out there, the folks out there, I think I was so happy to see Tom Cruise back as in a plane, a fighter jet again, reprising his role, that I let the emotions get to me, and I think I rated the audio higher than what it should have been. So upon second viewing, I had to I had to reevaluate my score, and I had to give it an 8.0 for the Dolby Atmos mix. I mean, there are some cool parts in it. It is a static mix. There's a couple cool parts in it. There's the thing where they do I think it's called the snake, where they go side by side and they spiral downwards. He did that with Goose's son. What's Goose's son's name? Duck. Was it Duck? I don't think it was Duck. That was it. No. There's that scene, and then
no, it's not Duck.
No, the thing that really kind of knocked it down for me was the aerial scenes. It sounds cool, but I thought there would be better movement when the planes are going side to side. I thought there'd be better overhead movement, more front to back movement, but it just wasn't that great. It wasn't that good and distinct sounding. And, I think I have a pretty good audio system myself, but it just didn't do it for me. The bass was also kind of lacking as well. If you think the bass is really fantastic, that means you got your system goosed up so loud that it just you just think it sounds loud. But really, if you have a really good calibrated system, the bass is lacking in this movie. So is the effects. Just not really good, distinct effects in this movie. And it's for such a good movie that I think it made like 1.4 billion and 1.5 billion at the cinemas. I was expecting better audio. But 9.9 for video. Again, you do get the IMAX scenes in it. Very super sharp and crisp detailed transfer overall from start to finish. The movie wasn't shot at all in IMAX cameras, but it was shot with IMAX certified cameras, especially designed to fit into the cockpit of the plane. The detail stays consistent throughout. Really sharp, really crisp. Colors really natural overall. Nothing too bright or crazy vibrant. But the black levels are solid. Great shadow detail. Great detail. This one, again, 9.9 for video. 8 for audio. For an average score of 8.95, which kicks it out of the top 10 list. Pick up any one of these titles on this list if you guys want to show off your home theaters, your TVs, your sound systems, your projectors. I will leave some links down below in this video's description if you want to pick up anything that we have mentioned in this video. And let us know what is on your top 10 list on 4K Blu-rays this year. Again, like, share, and subscribe, and we shall see you again in the next video.